Hey, how's it going, and welcome to the Guns YouTube channel. Today we are discussing, in my opinion, how to improve Warzone 2. Before we continue the video, I'd really appreciate if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, as I'm fairly new on YouTube and I'll be making lots of content moving ahead in the future. And if you really want to, share the video with friends to see what they think of the points I'm going to raise. I really want to grow this channel and I need your help to do so. Now we have the introduction out of the way, let's get straight into it. As a lot of people have said, Warzone 2 has a great foundation and people are really enjoying the map. In my opinion, that's a big W, as Caldera never really had the feel of a Warzone. However, I feel improvements can be made which will make this game amazing. This is my opinion, I am not expecting everyone to agree with what I'm saying, so if you do find yourself disagreeing with any of the points made, please let me know in the comments below, as it is good to hear from you, as it may change my perspective on any points I make in this video. Please don't comment get good or adapt, as that really provides no reason to the points I'm making. Also, I'll be talking about the core game mechanics and not talking about various bugs or crashes that are happening in the game currently, as I hope those will be soon addressed by Raven Software and Infinity Wards. As I talk through the points, there will be a gameplay running in the background. The gameplay is not amazing by any stretch of the imagination, it's just to keep the video flowing. So let's jump to point 1, time to kill. The current time to kill is absurdly fast, and in such an RNG mode such as a BR, where the map is open and there are multiple lines of sight at any given point in time, sometimes the death feels a bit cheap. I think from the views I've seen on Twitter and Reddit, the general consensus is that an increase to the base player health is welcome and would give people a better chance of surviving and being able to replay and reset a gunfight. However, there needs to be a fine balance between increasing the TTK too high where it will put off a casual player. I think 100 base health and 150 health with all plates equipped, which is 250 in total, is a good starting place. Point 1 was easy. Point 2 is slightly more controversial, and this is having the ability to plate whilst running. The general feeling I have seen is that the majority of the player base want this. However, there is a minority who argue why should you be allowed to run away and plate if you had bad positioning. This ties into point 1, where the map and mode is very RNG. Sometimes you cannot anticipate a player being in a certain position. Yes, you can check the windows, doors and the usual camping spots, but sometimes you can get caught off guard and it would be unfeasible to check every corner and every building. And for the positioning argument, the player who has rotated early and positioned better already has a huge advantage. It is up to them to be accurate and finish the kill and play aggressive when they catch a team rotating and break their armor. I am not too sure what their argument is here. Point 3 is about the plates you start with. In Warzone 1, every player started with 2 plates and 3 armor plate slots. Now every player starts with 2 plates, but you have to find a plate vest in order to have access to the 3rd plate slot. Yet again, this adds further RNG to the game and makes gunfights feel unfair when you are trading with another player who just happened to find a 3 plate vest. I believe the previous solution Warzone 1 was much better, where finding a satchel would give you access to 3 extra plates in your inventory, as this does not affect a 1v1 gunfight, and I think this would be a pretty easy fix for the devs. Point 4 is about resetting Tac Sprint. People did not like slide cancelling, as it manipulated a mechanic that was not meant to be in the game, and it broke players' cameras, making it difficult to track an enemy in close quarters combat. Plus, they thought the animation looked a little goofy, as people were running from point A to point B, continuously sliding. We are now in a position where we have a large map, but we move very slowly. On one hand, we want positioning to matter and people to play more tactically, but we have a game where the movement to get to the next position is painfully slow. And the only mechanic to reset a Tac Sprint is the melee, which in my opinion looks as equally as silly as a team all sliding. I am not sure what mechanic they could introduce for resetting Tac Sprint that makes it easily accessible for all players, so you do not need to purchase a scuff controller or any other controller to have back paddles in order to do a slide cancel. The only solution I can think of is to remove double time as a perk from Warzone and just give everyone the ability to have unlimited Tac Sprint. Any ideas on this point would be welcome. Point 5 is about the map and pacing, and this will be broken down into the following points: strongholds, high loot areas, mid-tier and low loot areas, respawn of contracts, and the increase of buy stations on the map. I understand what they were trying to do with the strongholds. They wanted to add a mechanic which gives a high reward, high risk scenario where the reward is a loadout. However, I feel the current system needs to be tweaked, as currently it gets far too chaotic with the AI. In the heat of a battle where another team comes to third party the stronghold, which happens quite often, it is very hard to distinguish between AI and real players. The AI kills so quick you cannot afford to shoot back at them, only to get COD timing and actually be killed by a real player. I think the solution for strongholds is to mark 3 or 4 stronghold locations at the start of a game. So these drop zones become high risk, high reward areas and remove the AI. At the stronghold locations there should be mid-tier loot with one AI juggernaut you have to kill who will drop a loadout marker. This way there is no confusion between real players and AI, and you can have meaningful gunfights with another team whilst trying to kill the juggernaut. The team that kills the juggernaut then owns the stronghold for the remainder of the game and have a constant UAV on this position, which may prove to be vital in the later circles. The map at the start of the game should indicate high loot areas. Highlighted in green in the image shown on screen, these areas would have high tier loot and high cash. These areas would be hotly contested and gives that high risk, high reward scenario. This would improve the start of the game pacing and give possible opportunities for regain mid-game. As shown on the map, the yellow areas are a mid-tier loot area, so they'll have mid-tier loot and moderate cash. So it may take a player or a squad longer to loot for the cash for the loadout. However, these areas are less likely to be contested, so it is a balance of medium risk versus medium rewards. As shown on the image in blue, these are the low tier loot areas. These areas would have low tier loot and low amounts of cash. These areas would rarely be contested but would give lesser skilled players a chance to land and incentivize them doing a contract in order to raise the funds for a loadout. They can then plan their route into the circle, maybe avoiding the high tier loot areas where the better players are likely to be located. Like Warzone 1, they should respawn contracts in order to give a better opportunity for regain in the mid to late game, as currently contracts do not respawn. Lastly, there is a lack of buy stations on the map. This slows down the game as you have to travel quite far in order to access a buy station to buy a UAV, to get a general gauge of where players are on the map, to position yourself to get into more gunfights. In addition, sometimes you cannot buy a UAV because the buy station has already been used. They should revert this change back to Warzone 1 mechanics, as it will help speed up the mid game where players now have access to more cash after spending the majority of their initial cash on a loadout. Point 6 is another controversial matter, and it's all about loadouts. I am very biased on this point as I like the loadout aspect in Warzone 1. Amongst other things, Warzone was a unique BR, and the ability to have your own loadout in Warzone 1, in my opinion, is what differentiates it from the other BRs. I understand we have the loadout system in Warzone 2, but it is more complicated to obtain one. In a game trying to cater for casuals, I do not understand why they have added a layer of complexity to buying a loadout. The UI at the buy station, which I will come onto later, is quite confusing, whereas before you'd go to a buy station, buy a loadout drop marker, call it, pick your loadout, simple and no fuss. I understand the argument that loadouts made it so every player was using the same gun, but this is for the devs to appropriately balance the guns so there is not an obvious defined meta. From the early weeks I feel they have done a good job with this, as well as the ground loot, as you are not at a complete disadvantage when using ground loot against someone who has a loadout. I feel they should bring back the Warzone 1 system, including the timings of the free loadout drops, as it is simple and easy to understand. But to add balance, they should increase the cost of a loadout marker to 15,000. This will incentivize people landing at high loot areas or doing contracts early game to obtain the funds to be able to buy a loadout marker, and not have the cash to buy a UAV to instantly push teams who may not have loadouts. I think that would be a good balance. What are your thoughts? Point 7 is about the looting. I think everyone universally would like the looting system of Warzone 1 back. I have now got used to the current looting system in Warzone 2. However, when making this video, I asked myself the question, does a current looting system add or improve upon what we already had? The old cliche came to mind of, why fix what is not broke? Yet again, like the loadout, in a game catered to casuals, I cannot understand why they have made this aspect of the game more complex. When looting in Warzone 1, you could hear or see a box and quickly loot it and move on. Currently, I find myself running around a building looking at shelves and just spamming square, which is the interact button on controller. Before, I could clearly see what I wanted to loot and I picked up, or it was vacuumed up, such as the plates and ammo, and I swiftly moved on and focused on positioning and, more importantly, shooting players. Plus, the backpack system, it seems, was for DMZ, and it adds no value to the BR experience. I often find myself carrying loads of plates and some ammo, in my opinion, an unnecessary addition to the BR game mode. Plus, it further clutters the UI when trying to quickly change your weapon, drop crash, etc. I think the devs should revert back to Warzone 1 style of looting, as they pretty much got that bang on first time around, in my opinion. Point 8 is the overall UI, whether it be the TAC map or the buy station. If they were to revert back to buying loadouts, then this solves the majority of the buy station UI issue, as we would no longer have to have 2 pages. In my opinion, they should revert back to a list and add functions such as hotkeys, as Bert Speed mentioned in his Warzone improvement video for Warzone 1. Raven Software made lots of good changes to the UI in Warzone 1, such as being able to see the team total cash, how many plates your teammates had, and what kill streaks they had. All those good changes have been removed for some odd reason. I think this should be an easy fix for the devs, and I imagine they will add this again in the future. It's just frustrating that we do not have this at the game's launch. Lastly, on UI. In my opinion, it's just the general clarity of pings, and the amount of time a ping lasts is not good enough just yet. Yet again, I can imagine this being an easy fix for the devs. We are nearly at the end of the video, and the next point I do not think is controversial at all. Point 9 is about the Gulag. Warzone 1 Gulag was a breath of fresh air into the BR genre. When you die, you get a chance to get yourself back into the game with the ultimate 1v1 me bro. It was simple, easy to understand the objective of the minigame, and the majority of times fun. I say majority, I feel that sometimes the devs gave us awful guns, like the revolver, to drive us insane. Now, Warzone 2 has taken an aspect of the previous game I believed everyone enjoyed and added a layer of complexity to it, such as the jailer, the need to rely on another player, lootable items in the Gulag. If the jailer is not killed in time, the team with the most damage wins. It is a bit frustrating, and I do not want to have to rely on another player, or I imagine vice versa, that player does not want to rely on me to get back into the game. I see that they were trying to innovate, and it seems like an experiment that has failed. I think yet again this is an easy fix for the devs moving forwards. I will end this video on a controversial topic. Point 10 is about movement. Now, I understand why they removed slide cancelling, as it was an exploit of the Modern Warfare 19 game engine. However, they nerfed sliding and jump shotting into the ground, where they are mostly now useless. At the current moment in time, it is very hard to challenge a player who is pre-aiming a door, window, corner, wherever it may be. I am not advocating for the reintroduction of a slide cancel. What I want is the ability to ADS quicker when sliding or jumping, so I have the option to challenge someone who is pre-aiming an angle, as they have a huge advantage already. I am not asking for the ability to break cameras. I just want to be able to have a small chance of winning a gunfight where the player is already pre-aiming and is likely to win that gunfight. However, I can maybe put off the aim with a slide or a jump.
Skill gap. Skill gap. Tactical players.
Now, you may argue that the player pre-aiming should always win the gunfight, as they have put themselves in a better position. But in Warzone, things can get very chaotic very quickly when a team of 4 challenges another team of 4 in close quarters, for example. It is frustrating to die to someone simply choosing not to engage in combat, but instead sit in a building aiming at a door, hoping someone runs through it, most likely me, and die. If I could slide through the door, at least it gives me a small chance of maybe evading some of the initial shots due to their poor aim, for example, and hopefully return fire. I know this point may annoy some people, but it's just my opinion, but I'm more than happy to see what your thoughts are on this point. Okay, so that wraps up this video. I hope you made it to the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about how I feel Warzone 2 can be improved. I would like to take this time to say thank you for watching. please comment what you thought of any of the points raised and what you thought of the video. I really hope to see you in the next one. Thank you.